Welcome everyone to Mary's Little House. So glad you came. It's always a pleasure to have you. Mary's Little House is surrounded by the beauties of nature. About in about 2 days, we have encountered, or I saw a young doe. I think with pregnant with child, and she just comes and stands over in the orchard in Walnut Grove in the property next door, and just looks at us serenely when I drive up or when I come out of the garage. And one time she even came closer, just to seemingly to curiosity to have some kind of a contact or a dialogue, wordless. I sometimes use words, but she never ran away, never scampered away out of fear. She seemed just to walk away elegantly when she did. I think it's so beautiful to see nature, so beautiful, and seeing her just surrounded like a pedestal, or pillars around her, like a statue in the middle of a pedestal. She was right framed around these uh, with other trees, just peering so placidly, not fearful, but just looking at us and Peanut. Even Peanut was quiet and didn't bark. We had like a silent dialogue together. This beautiful doe, beautiful eyes, and we're really close together. It was wonderful. I'm so glad to be with you. Now it's dark out. It's pitch dark, and the moon is very bright, the silvery moon. Pretty soon, in a few days, we'll have the full moon again, um, and and uh, and everything is quiet. There's a few earlier this evening, a few firecrackers punctuating the dark, in anticipation with for the 4th of July. Well, in this peaceful time of the night, morning now, quarter to 1 a.m., I want to share with you the beautiful gift of today's gospel. It's the gospel according to Mark, the 5th chapter, that all the churches all over the world will be proclaiming. The gospel of Jairus, the synagogue leader who came and prostrated himself at the feet of Jesus, and he was an important person, and Jesus wasn't. Well, I mean, he wasn't as important at that time. He didn't have any official status, but people were following him. But here's this official man, a father, pleads with him for his daughter, his 12-year-old daughter who is dying. And Jesus starts to walk off with him with a large crowd. And in the large crowd was this woman who for years spent all her money for a medical problem of hemorrhaging, and spent her money, and nothing worked. And she had the faith to say, if I just touch the hem of his garment, I will be cured. And you know that's what she did. She had that courage to do that. And Jesus, in the middle with Jairus and all these people surrounding him, he stopped and said, who touched me? The apostle says, what a stupid question. Look at the people, they're pressing you. But Jesus insisted to find out who touched him. Because and the preacher, that the priest who was the homilist, said, look at that. Jesus didn't let this pass. The reason why he didn't, he wanted to show the faith of that lady, of that woman. He wanted to show the whole world. It could have passed, but he wanted to show that. And Jesus talked. The lady said that I'm the one that touched you, and Jesus says, daughter, it is your faith that has cured you. Go in peace and be free of this illness. It is your faith that has cured you. So the father said that he was making a big point. This was his take on this thing. Now, all of you out there, Jesus wants to show the strength of faith, that he wants faith in him. you share your faith stories with others, and then that made me click. So maybe I could do that for YouTube tonight to share some of my faith stories. We all have them, startling instances of prayers answered, or something that we've asked for, and God answered it in the most marvelous way, most prompt way, or whatever. Our faith stories, and this sharing of faith stories builds our faith up, one another's faith up. Well, I have two of them. The first one is just so sweet, and it's very recent. Every morning before I go to work, before I do the chores and everything, I have a half hour with the Eternal Father, sometimes with a cup of coffee in my hand. Very informal. I sit in the sofa facing the fireplace, and over the fireplace is a large portrait of the Eternal Father. And I talk over the day with him for half hour. I talk over the day with him. Well, one day we were talking about everything, I mean, I'm in prayer, but the Eternal Father's listening and everything. He doesn't talk back like I'm talking to you. But anyway, I was hearing the tick of the clock, and about a couple of weeks, I changed the batteries in the clock in the kitchen, and the chimes weren't working, and I was thinking during the prayer, how can I fix this clock? Maybe it's a bad battery or something. And I just sort of not even said it out loud, or I thought, Father, Eternal Father, this would be great if I had chimes. I was just lamenting it. I wasn't even asking him. I was trying to figure out myself how I could get the chimes back. Well, in a few minutes, the hour came, and all of a sudden, I wasn't looking for that. I wasn't waiting for that. I didn't ask him even. I just sort of shared a wish. Watch what you wish. I wish we had. I wish I would really have loved to have the chimes back. All of a sudden, the chimes started. I mean, it was like the Eternal Father went in there like a person. I know He is a person, the first person was, and fixed those chimes for me, or had the angels do it, or whatever. I don't know. But it was like, oh my goodness, that was only a wish, and I want to share that with you. And that's that has happened. No, I don't know. I can't explain it except of a tender, loving Father who listens to the whims and the wishes of to His children. That's the way He is. Oh, as we grow in faith, and by the way, faith is nourished and strengthened by prayer. If we don't have a prayer life, our faith will be weak, and it'll just be like the world's a rat race, and we're in this thing, and no, the prayer faith helps us. We're on God's love, and on His rock. We're founded. We're not being pushed around like a leaf on a stormy sea. We're standing anchored in God's love and God's care for us, God's tender providence for us. Anyway, that's the first story. The second story is, a long time ago, I was up at International Falls, Minnesota, taking a plane from International Falls to Duluth, Minnesota. We're waiting for the plane. A man comes in with no suitcase. He didn't even have a jacket on. It was a little cool outside in northern Minnesota, but he didn't have a jacket on. His hair was disheveled. It looked like he looked like an unmade bed. But anyway, he hurriedly got a ticket. He looked very distressed. Well, I noticed him, and we boarded the plane, and he sat across a catty corner across from me in the aisle, over the aisle. And I was sitting by the window, and there was an empty seat, and he came and sat by me. He saw that I was a priest, and he explained to me that he's been called by his wife, and I think a daughter there at the hospital in Duluth, saying, "You better come now. Our son is dying." His son had some kind of a disease that there was no known cure for, and he was in critical condition, and the husband had to be there right away because he was dying. His son was dying, and he shared this with me. And all of a sudden, come upon me, I just had such an assurance. I mean, I'm just, I'm just telling you what's happening. Anyway, I said, I assured the father who was so distraught and so, but he came over to the priest. He had faith, like that lady touching the garment. Or Jairus asking Jesus to come to his house to cure his daughter. He had faith enough to cross that aisle and share and pour out his heart to this poor priest. He had faith. There was faith in him. There was faith. Anyway, that faith. Anyway, I assured him it'd be all right. I did. What am I saying? You know, but I went past my humanness and all my reservations. And I said I assured him it'd be all right, and I'll pray for him on the plane as we go to Duluth, Minnesota. Okay, well, a few weeks later, one of my little parishioners, who was a daughter of a family, she was a waitress down in just below us in the south of International Falls, and of a family that owned a resort. Well, this family was the father and mother of the son who was dying. She knew who the priest was. They didn't know who the priest was. They weren't maybe going to church up at the falls. They might have been going to church someplace else. I don't know. But anyway, and she said, "I know the priest." And they asked her to come up and ask me, the poor priest that's sitting in the plane there, to come down to have a dinner with them as a act of gratitude for all he did. Well, I said, "Dear, God did that. I didn't do anything. God did that." And so I would thank them for their offer, their invitation, but I really don't want to go. The girl started crying. "Well, hello, She said, "They really want you, Father. They really want you to come. They're really grateful." So, okay, and I went, and I got to meet the father again, and the mother, and the boy who was a young man who was cured, and the sister, maybe some other siblings. But anyway, the story went that when the father went into the hospital, they were greeted by his wife and the nurses and the staff. Everybody was elated that all of a sudden the son was getting cured, and he was on his way to health again. All of a sudden it just happened. And the father asked, "Well, when did this happen? When did he start to get well?" And the father says, "That's when I was up in the plane with this priest, and the priest told me everything would be all right." So it's like the little story about like the faith story here of Jesus and Jairus, curing this little daughter, this little 12-year-old daughter who died, who the mourners were already there, lamenting and wailing and all that, and Jesus went in and cured the little daughter. Well, my point is that that's one of the two faith stories: the chimes and this. I call it the disheveled man, father and his son, and so we had a wonderful meal together. And by the way, it was written up in the International Falls Daily Journal. I think the name of the paper was on the front page. And they didn't mention the priest. Well, I was glad that. But the little girl knew who it was, the little waitress. And anyway, that's the story of how God works. And this was just sheer gift, where I'm just very careful, what I tell people, not to raise their expectations on it. But this I just knew that this would be all right, that God was working through this poor clod of a person to help this man and to help the family, to bring that boy back to health and life, and to increase the family's faith, and the whole community of the International Falls who read this story about the father and his son, and uh, that priest that was sitting there across the row in the airplane. I'm so grateful to have shared this with you. Thanks for listening. God bless you. Share your faith with others too, your faith stories, and let us strengthen each other with our faith stories. God bless you.